Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rav Eliezer Melamed, Shlita. Here we are, Erev Shabbos Kodesh Parshas Vayeshev, learning the laws of Chanukah, which begins next week, Haba Aleinu L'Tova. Please continue davening for Chaylei Tzva Agana Yisrael, Refuah Shlema L'Chol Petzu'ei Yisrael, safe return of our hostages. We're dedicating our learning in memory of Leili Nishmas, Sarah and Daniel Shemin Rav Doron V'Sheli Shemek Damo, and a special dedication this morning. Today is the 18th Yahrtzeit of Rav Shmuel Tzvi ben Yosef Halevi, father of one of our very loyal, dedicated listeners, someone who's very important to our community, somebody who's very important personally to me in my life, and a big supporter of all the Torah that we teach. So we dedicate our learning, again, Le'ili Nishmas, Rav Shmuel Tzvi ben Yosef Halevi. Today, his 18th Yahrtzeit being observed. May his Neshama have an Aliyah. So we continue. The next chapter is Agzeres V'Hamerit. B'shnas Gimel Alafim Tov Kuf Tzadi Aleph. L'minyan she'anamonugim B'ridas Olam. So in the year, it's 169. It's funny, in the abbreviation, it's Lamed Pei Hey Samach. So it's Lifnei HaSfira. So 169 before the Common Era. So it's about 3591 or so. Kemeya v'shishim shana la'achar kibush ha'aretz al dei Hevanim. So about 160 years after the conquer of the Hellenists, the Greek Hellenists, Hechel Antiochus HaRevi'i, Epiphanes. So Antiochus IV, who's known as Epiphanes, however you want to pronounce that, l'hachbidas ulo al Yisrael. So he starts to exert his pressure on the Jewish people. The Greeks, they desecrated the vessels of the Beis HaMikdash. Pirtzu es chomos Yerushalayim, they pierced and breached the walls of Jerusalem. Hargu alfei Yehudim umachru rabim lavodim. They killed thousands of Jews, and they sold many into slavery. B'shnas Gimel alafim tavkov tzadi Gimel, so in 167 before the Common Era, Gazer Antiochus al Yehudim la'azovas ator mitzvasev la'avod avodah zarah. So Antiochus, he made a decree for the Jewish people that they had to leave the Torah and the mitzvos, and they had to worship idols. V'afhitil onish maves al mish yekaymes mitzvos, and even instituted a death penalty for anyone that would follow mitzvos. Who bitel es avodas hakarbonos bebeis hamikdash, nullified and stopped the karbonos that were taking place in the Beis HaMikdash. V'hafach osol l'makom avodah zarah, and it became a place of avodah zarah. Just think about this for a second, about what that meant to the Jewish people. The centrality of the Jewish people at that time was Israel, and the centrality in Israel was the Beis HaMikdash. So imagine the center of all Jewish life being turned into a house of avodah zarah. Just something to think about. Sifrei Torah nikru v'nisrafu. Torah scrolls were ripped and burned. Chaylav avru mikfar lekfar v'hechrichu es hayudim l'hakim mizbeach l'avodah zarah v'le'echol chazir. The soldiers of the Greek Hellenists, they went from town to town, and they forced the Jewish people to erect altars for avodah zarah and to eat chazer, to eat pig. Kiyum bris hamilah asar, it was forbidden to have a bris. Nashim shecharfu nafsham lamulos b'neim hotzu'u l'horeg, women who sacrificed so much that their children, their sons, could have a bris milah, were taken out to be killed. Bikvos gzeres hashmad, rabim hachasidim barchul midbarios l'ma'aros l'artos acheros, v'rabim nehergu al kiddush Hashem. So because of these evil decrees and this persecution, so many righteous people, they just ran away to wherever they could, to the deserts, to caves, to other lands, and many were killed al kiddush Hashem. Halacha techrif k'neged yuhadus oreres hezik hanishmasi. Kshegia yivanim l'kfar modi'in, ubikshu la'achrech es matasyo ben yochanan kohen gadol avod avodah zarah, the pressure that was placed on Jewish practice, it perhaps aroused something within the Neshama of the Jewish people. And when the Greek Hellenists came to Kfar Modi'in, you can go to Modi'in today, and it's obviously a very monumental place, and they wanted to force Matasyahu ben Yochanan, the Kohen Gadol, to worship idols, his response was that he killed the officer and whoever was with him. What he innovated was that instead of being killed Al Kiddush Hashem, which Jews have been doing for generations, unfortunately, he decided that I'm going to flip the script, and I'm going to kill my tormentor. V'yachad im banav herim es nes hamer b'yavanim and v'es yavnos. And together with his sons, they raised the banner of now being able to rebel against the Greek Hellenists and all of their practices. Hamilchama haysa kasheh. The war was very complicated. It was difficult. Yehuda Maccabi Shaya Noaz bevanav hinhigas lochamim. The leader of those in battle was Yehuda HaMaccabi. Of course, he's always the hero of Chanukah, Yehuda Judah Maccabi. Bigvura b'kisharon gaver Chashmonaim al chelos hayvanim. With great strength and with great wisdom and smarts, the Chashmonaim, they defeated the Ivanim. La'achar kishinasayim hitzlich lichbosh es Yisraelim. After 2 years, they were able to reconquer Jerusalem. Uviyom chafei b'kislev, tafkuf tzadivav, in the year 165 or 164 before the Common Era, on the 25th of Kislev, hechelu l'taris hamikdash lahachziras avodas hakarbonos lekadmusa. They had conquered Jerusalem, and they were able to now purify the Beis Hamikdash and to return to the practice of bringing karbonos. Az hisrachesh nes pach hashemen. And that's, of course, when the miracle of the cruse of oil took place. La'achar mikan, which doesn't need elaboration, I'm sure. After so, chazra Yevanim la'eretz bekochos gedolim mekavshu es Yushalayim. The Yevanim came back with greater numbers and greater military, and they conquered Yushalayim. V'hishlitu es hakonim hamisyavdim ala mishkan. And they put Kohanim, who were actually Hellenists, in charge of the Beis Hamikdash. Ach kadesh lo lahachriv es hametach im Yehudim, bitlu gzeres hashmad ve'tir liYehudim l'kayim es haTorah mitzvoseh. However, so they shouldn't stir the pot, and they didn't want to have any more fights with the Jews, perhaps, so they removed the persecution rules against the Jewish people, and they allowed them to fulfill the Torah and the mitzvahs. Ulam hamered kfar lo nifsak. But the rebellion has not been completed. The Chashmonaim continued to battle against Hellenists and Hellenism. Hamilchama yada elios amorados. The war had its ups, had its downs. Ha'achim ha'Chashmonaim shalvu gevura diplomata v'tachbalos ad shel achar asaros shanim higanu la'atzmaut medinit. The Chashmonaim, with tremendous strength and wisdom, diplomacy, they worked for decades until they actually had independence. Amnam b'chasot mesyamas shel hamamlachos hagadolos betchilas hayavanis v'achakach Roma. Ulam b'cholzos hashiltam eretz hisnahel alidei Yehudim ulaman haYehudim. So even though the course of history showed that the Jews were under the control of larger nations, the Greeks and then Rome, but nevertheless, the actual control of the day-to-day life was under the Jewish people. L'chora nidmeh ki'ilu haya hayvanim misazrim b'savlanut, gam Yehuda haysa misyavenes lebesov kamo shar ha'amim. It would seem that if the Greeks were more patient, then even Judea would have fallen under the influence of the Yevanim, like the rest of the world. Ulam yad Hashem hamistateres mahalchei adoros yatzras ha'imos. However, of course, it's the divine providence, and in history, Hashem's hand always will create this conflict that allows us to be victorious. Just like making Paro's heart hard, as Hashem hardened Paro's heart. Hashem also hardened the heart of Antiochus. And through that, the faith in Hashem and in the Judaism was revealed. Mesiras HaNefesh v'Agvurei Yehudis, and also which producing tremendous Mesiras Nefesh, strength, and obviously people stepping up to do the right thing. We will see as we go on, by the way, that the story, we usually end the story there, but it's not necessarily the most happy ending with the story of Chashmonaim. Again, this is part of the Chanukah story they don't usually tell, but it is important to tell, particularly as we prepare for the Yontif itself. But until then, wishing everybody a good Shabbos, and please remember that we have to continue davening for Chayalei Tzvagan Yisrael, Refuah Shalema L'chol Petzua Yisrael, a safe return of our hostages. We're learning Nishmat, Seren Daniel, Shemin Rav Durno Vasheli, and again, today, on the 18th Yahrtzeit, Rav Shmuel Tzvi ben Yosef Halevi, Zichrono Livracha, Thank you so much to the family for dedicating all of the learning in shul this week, but particularly today's episode. Hope everybody has a peaceful and restful Shabbos. Shabbat Shalom. We'll see you here next week. Mitzvah Hashem. See you then.